welcome to another episode of Knowledge for the Soul. It's been a long time coming. We have our first guest ever on the platform. We have Randolph Johnson Smith, the Director of Patient Access and a holder of a master's degree and currently working on a doctorate.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I'm very, very happy to be on the platform and very happy to express a little bit of my experience.
Well, hey, I'm honored to have you, and I also want to do a special thanks to Google, the educational institutions that I've had a chance to learn from, who provide a lot of the information that we're covering. We're really just reviewing what's already out there in public information. And I also want to thank our editor for the effort that he puts to put this all together. Nice for you guys. I also want to thank God. For those who believe in God, I believe it's proper to acknowledge him. Yeah. So moving on to that, if there's any incorrect information, I always encourage sending us email at kfspodcast@gmail.com. So that way we can discuss and elaborate and just grow together. And also, we hope that you can take something really positive from this episode. We want to talk about why goals have an impact on health. Randolph, I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit more about why goals are important and how they may be related to health.
I feel that goals are similar to just simply moving. You move with a purpose. And when you put purpose in your life, you have some place to go. You have some place to move. And so goals, I think, directly correlate to purpose.
Well said. And that purpose drives us to make different decisions. Yeah, that's so eloquently put. It's like a way to move. And how we achieve our goals, that can be a determining factor of whether we have like a positive outcome or a negative outcome and success rates.
I 100% agree. I feel that our goals directly correlate to our psychological, spiritual, and physical health.
Yes. And when we're successful in achieving our goals, it means growth for us. It means a deepened sense of spiritual fulfillment. And the rewards, it just all complements this positive feeling, rush of positive feelings, and it creates a long lasting effect.
Yes, yes, it truly does. I feel that for the things that I've set, because they haven't always. Sometimes your short term goals are part of your goals. Your long term goals are part of your goals. Goals to just do better than you did the day before are part of your goals, and it does affect all those different places in your life, especially your spiritual fulfillment.
I just want to once again just take a second to really thank you for being here. It's just making this a whole lot of fun.
Thank you. I find myself to be just somebody who's grateful to have been blessed with my experiences and to know that you see things that I've experienced in my path that you would like to have talked about and expressed on your podcast. I find that just very humbling.
Right back at you in terms of humility, because when I stopped and thought of like what goals who I wanted to include in that and offer the opportunity, you came up immediately because I've personally had a chance to see your journey and watched you say, hey, you know what? This is going to be my goal educationally, lifestyle was, and I've watched you work towards it and experience success. I've watched you work towards it and experience setbacks, and I've watched you rebound. And I'm continuing to watch this happen. And so I knew immediately that you were somebody that I had to ask. And we're going to talk more about why you're so relevant to that in a bit later.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much. It's funny. I think at a point in my life, I cared so much about what other people thought. And it wasn't until like that unveiling, like your eyes are being open, like if they were blinded and now they're just being open. When I stopped caring about other people's wants and desires of me, and I realized that I needed to focus on what I needed to do for me in order to be the me I needed to be proud of.
That's insight, right? And then that also talks about how achieving your goals and setting goals can affect your self perception, right? So, we're going to segue later into the psychological aspect, but that's definitely right in that ballpark. And so you have to set goals because deep down, there's an end goal and
Yes.
something that you want and you desire. And when you achieve it, you're going to feel so good in terms of having achieved it, and you'll be proud of yourself because of the effort that it took to achieve it. And
Ooh,
you'll have like a positive outlook on who you are as a person, and you'll feel like you have greater control over your life too. Almost kind of this crazy, like, it's true, but it's also, life is a lot of random probabilities too, right? So but you definitely feel a greater grasp in terms of control.
so very true. As you can, your conversation just brought me to. I used to. What is that?
Cow's Mound? No.
Cow's Mountain. It was Cow's Mountain.
Okay, okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
yes. Okay, I want
So
the help.
when you are parked, or when you're just looking at the mountain from the street, it
Right,
just looks like, what in the world?
right.
Like, how can I do? There's no way. Like, ah. And what you do is one step at a time.
Yep,
You can't jump. You can't do too many steps. You could fall. You could trip. So you
exactly.
place your feet carefully. And
Yes.
eventually you make it to the top and look down and realize, like, whoa, I did it. And that's exactly what you just said, kind of reminded
Yep.
me of
A positive talking point. I'm having a lot of fun. For me, honestly. You're
it.
great. Okay. To talk a little bit more about the Cow's Mountain journey, right? One step at a time. I love that because as you take each step, right, you want to keep moving towards it, but you also want to get better as you move towards it. So
Yes.
it becomes easier, right? So you may have to think about how you're stepping, is your balance, your footing, right? So that's going to cause you to gain a stronger sense of balance. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
going to become more proficient in that area. Whereas if you hadn't set a goal to even go up cows, you would never have acquired that. And that's
Yeah.
in that increased sense of balance. You can apply that on the hike, sure, but you can apply that outside the hike. You can take that anywhere and even apply it to another goal.
Absolutely. And then through this hike, on that first time that you hit cows, you might take a break here and there.
That's
And
true.
that's just the experience in life.
Yeah.
But you don't go back down. You've
Yeah.
already made it so far. No matter how far you've gone, you've taken the steps. So it's like, take that break, but don't go back down. Keep going. You just take each
Exactly.
step at a time.
Yes, exactly. And the only battle is against yourself. It's easy in this world. I mean, we have a very individualistic society, which has definitely benefits in terms of expression, which is something we're always in progress of honoring. But then also, can you help me out here? Because I got a little sidetracks in my head.
So it's like, oh, and you know what? We both get a little sidetracked sometimes because we're both passionate about
Yes,
the topic.
exactly.
And now we have a metaphor to be able to jump back off of. So that's like awesome. Going back to that mountain, you have people going at different speeds,
Yes.
but there's many routes to get to the top.
Yep.
And everybody's top is different. So some people
Exactly.
might go up this way, this way. But when you're focused on somebody moving super fast, you don't know how many times they've gone up that mountain.
Exactly.
You know how many times they've gotten used to what steps they need to take. So
Yeah.
when you put your blinders on and stay focused on your goals, that's how you achieve them.
That's perfect. Your only competition is against yourself if you're a competitive person. Otherwise, just open up to the learning process and put one foot in front of the other and just try to see what lesson you can take from every big and small failure along the way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes, that's perfect. Hey, thanks for helping me out
Of
there.
course.
uh, so we're gonna eventually go into a few different examples and zero in on how goals are affecting the physical health, the psychological health, and the spiritual health. But we did want to talk about goals when it comes to the goal setting process, what SMART goals means. I'm sure many of our listeners have heard of the acronym, but I'm sure if it was a quiz right now, pulling it up for every single meaning behind the letter, in the acronym, I'm sure we would get some 4 out of 5s, 3 out of 5s.
I wouldn't get it right initially. Nope. We may not think about the name of the steps that we're taking in the process,
Hmm.
but I appreciate that you brought that, to the forefront. That is a psychological tool, something that, to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. As we go through this acronym, the SMART acronym, or it's a method of goal setting. It's important to mix it up, however works for you. Add more to it. You know what I mean? This is just a basis. It's basically pointing to base information, right? And so once you know there's an area of information, you can go and research on your own and decide what you make of it, because that's all that information is. It's trying to put into words a truth that is really difficult to put into words.
And we get a lot of different information, and what we do with that information, therein lies the value of it. Because if you do nothing with the information you received, there's no value. So,
Yes.
and we receive information from different places and different people, and it's your application to that in yourself, application to that in your goals to receive that information. So that's really what this is. This is a opportunity to attain information, but what you do with the information received today is all on you.
Yeah, well said. I could not have said it better myself. That's exactly right. And to segue with that into SMART goals, I was hoping you could tell us about what S in the SMART goal is all about.
Absolutely. So S is specific: who, what, where, when, why, and which. Define the goal as much as possible with no ambiguous language. Who's involved? What do I want to accomplish? Where will it be done? Why am I doing this? Your purpose, your reasons, and which constraints, requirements do I have? Did not even think about which. And which can be your hurdles, things of that
Mhm.
sort. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit more on this because it's just so. I mean, that's like a ton of information, but at the same time, it's specific information. What for me stuck out to me was like what you were talking on, the which constraints or requirements do I have? Like, what are the barriers that are in the way from me achieving this goal? And I just think that's cool to think about because you have to think about your strengths and weaknesses and your resources.
hmm Your resources are critical. There's strength in your resources, but you also have to acknowledge what is a resource and what is actually a hurdle. Because
Hmm.
sometimes what's disguised as a resource is actually a hurdle, and it's the reason why you're not reaching your goals.
That's true. That's absolutely true. So you have to always kind of evaluate those constraints, and they may change
Yes.
as things
Mhm.
develop as you progress towards your goals. I like the other parts talking about the who and what and where. I just feel like it just helps you zero in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it gives you it asks the purpose, like we talked about in the beginning. The
Hmm.
who, what, where, when, it's targeted. I mean, in my specific experience, I didn't have a specific target goal in my process. I knew I wanted to support patients and I
Hmm.
want to support a team.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do that together with creating processes. Process improvement is something I literally enjoy. I love being challenged with a problem and given the duty to create the solution. And I don't know how many people are actually really like that, but it's a lot of fun to me. But in finding a problem, you need to know the who, the what, the where, the when, the why. You need to know those things. Again, purpose.
And so that's us, the S in the SMART acronym, a little bit more elaborated on, and I'm sure that our listeners can take from that and expand, moving on to different examples. Moving on to the M in SMART, that's measurable. What that means is, can you track the progress and can you measure the outcome? Like, what evidence do you have that you are actually progressing towards the goal? If someone were to come up and say, how do I know that you accomplished this goal? What proof do you have? Well, you have to be able to generate it in some form or
Mm-hmm.
shape, to yourself, but also it's just proof of progress. And then how much, how many, or how will I know when my goal is accomplished? That ultimate time to, hey, celebrate. I've
Mhm.
accomplished this goal.
That's funny. After I got my bachelor's degree, I said, you know what? Just go for a master's. Just do it. Let's just get it done. And because I'm
Yeah.
like, I knew there were opportunity, but you also want your education to be a magnet for
Yeah.
potential employers, potential partnerships. You want them to see that you took the time and education to come to be who they're looking for.
Yep.
And so I went for my master's. I
Uh,
My intention was purposeful because I did masters of my MBA with a specialization in healthcare leadership. And
wow.
so my doctorate is going to be a doctorate in management with a specialization in healthcare leadership.
Wow.
So it's my measure is walking across that stage with my doctorate
Yep.
is one measure. My second measure is becoming chief operating officer of a healthcare organization. For me, those are my two measurables that I know, like, yes, this
Yes.
is what I wanted. Those are my two measurables.
I love it. I love it. And hey, thank you for being so candid and sharing that. That's amazing. And I just can feel it that you got that momentum going for you. That's a perfect way to connect our listeners to what measurable is all about. Having that measure. When to it feel good? When is that moment when you're
Mm-hmm.
going to know? And that's
Yes.
when you walk, you're going to know. And we're going to know because I'm going to be there too. And I'm going to be
You know
hyped
it.
and celebrating with you.
That feeling walking across that state. I remember, and this was just for my master's, because I couldn't walk for my bachelor's because of COVID. And
Yes.
so I hadn't walked since high school, and that was quite some time. That's all I'll say. But when I walked across that stage with my master's, oh, it was the most amazing feeling. And I finished my master's in the midst of learning different applications
Mhm.
and a new role. I was
Yeah.
finishing my master's capstone. I promise you, let no one tell you you cannot do it. Let no
Yep.
one tell you you cannot do it. I had some rough days. Some tears were dropped, but
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier.
Oh, proud of you, and I can't imagine. And yeah, that's a part of the journey towards our goals, whether it be big or small. They're all relevant on some
Yeah,
scale. I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit more about what A in the SMART goal acronym stands for, what it means.
absolutely. A is attainable. That is our how. And we want to think about those goals being reasonable enough to be accomplished. This particular instance, like if the a doctorate degree takes 3 years, setting the goal to finish it in 6 months is not reasonable.
Right.
There's a lot of knowledge to attain. So setting real goals, real attainable goals is important as well.
100%. Yeah, I agree. You've got to have a sense of realism in terms
Mm-hmm.
of whether or not you can actually achieve this. You have to really try to look at the circumstances objectively. And,
Mm-hmm.
the system, and when it comes to the academic route, is very specific. So understanding that and then accounting for that in your process, if that's the goal that you have set in mind, but really any goal is key to you being able to accomplish it in the end.
Absolutely.
With that, we probably want to talk a little bit more about R in SMART and the SMART goal
Ah,
acronym, and that
yes.
is relevant. So the question you have to ask yourself is it worthwhile? And once you go through everything, once you go through the ups and downs, the failures, the setbacks, and the walking alone, and then finding yourself suddenly with a crowd, and then all of a sudden the crowd's gone, and then the crowd's back, and the whole time you knew you were walking this way no matter what. So
Period.
and you're glad to have people with you. That's
Mhm.
great, but that's not a requirement. You chose to
Right.
walk the path. So when people come and go, you continue to go.
Exactly.
So going, but it's a challenge, right? It can hurt. It can walking alone can be really hard, sometimes. So is it worthwhile? Is the question.
Mhm. And it has to be worthwhile to you. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You can't set these goals based on what everybody expects of you, what everybody wants of you. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if they're your parents. You know, sometimes our parents have certain expectations. We have to know the path we need and want for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have to. We have to. So that takes some homework. Our parents have lived their experiences, and sometimes their steps are not the steps that we have to take, nor do we
Amen.
want to take. So it's like, but you've got to do that work in solitude. Solitude and loneliness, people put together sometimes, but with loneliness, there's the desire of another person's presence. In solitude, you are taking that time intentionally. And that's when you're intentional about your goals. You have to be intentional about the things that you're going to do. But that takes the homework you do on yourself. So you won't find that relevance until you do the homework. You won't know what's worthwhile until you know what's worthwhile for you.
And that takes some work, and we all have that capacity to
Yes.
identify what that is, because it really does stem down to like a basic human need in some shape, form, or another. And it does help when it comes to considering the relevant portion in the SMART goal acronym. It helps to consider if it's consistent with your other goals. That way it's kind of like and I'm not trying to be like create a pun here, but working smarter, not harder. It just seems like these words just jump out and it's like
Great pun
correlated.
insert. Great pun insert. I appreciated that very much. It was very smart.
So yeah, it helps. It makes it easier, and it helps when they're all related on some level, and at least you can identify if one achieving one goal is in direct opposition of another goal. You can identify that and sort that out. I was hoping you can talk to us about the last one, the final T in
Yes.
SMART, the acronym.
The final T is timely. That is when our objectives should have a time span. I will complete this by this month, this date, this year. That adds to the M in measurable.
Mm-hmm.
It will add that sense of urgency. It will ensure that you are prompt. But these are things that we have to do within ourselves. So it's just like, if it's schooling, set that date of graduation. If it's a project, set that goal, and then know what you need to do to accomplish that goal to get to that.
Yep, 100%. You have to, like you said, set a specific time, and it does create pressure, and I know it's scary, I feel like having moved towards my goals and having accomplished short-term, long-term goals, I feel like one thing for sure that I've noticed is that when you set a time frame, it can be anxiety provoking. But
Mhm.
in life, one thing I was able to learn later is that life is always going to kind of create a pressure, whether we're setting goals or not, right? But
So true.
when we set time and we decide when we're going to get a goal accomplished and create that pressure, not only does that spur us towards facing all those challenges, walking through those successes and failures, because that's what you need, is something to kind of push you through. You're
So true.
actually you're starting that pressure on your own, which is so powerful, because when you can run into the fire, it's it's a whole nother power than just waiting for life to throw you into something. You really do become superhuman in the sense that you can go through tough experiences that would normally disable someone or leave them unable to accomplish it at your speed, because you're used to running
Mm.
into the fire.
Okay, there you go. Speak it. You better speak it. You done had been a little bit of fire in your life, huh?
It can be scary, but it's good to face it. And the more you face it, when life throws, hey, here's that pressure from me, you go, oh, I'm used to handling this pressure, and you just walk with it. The SMART goal acronym, just to kind of quickly overview it again, we have specific, and then we have
Measurable.
attainable,
And then we have relevance.
and then we have timely. And so those are the pointers to think about when it comes to goal setting. But again, it's open to interpretation and open to adding your own specific way about going about it, because we're all unique and we all have those parts of ourselves we want to express, and what works for someone in one way may not work for someone the other way.
So true. So true.
We want to talk about the physical health aspects of how goals can improve your physical health. So I was hoping you could talk a little bit about the topic, just freehand, just talk about it, and just we'll just see where that takes us.
I'm laughing because I don't do this the best. This is not my strongest area. Sometimes when I stress, I don't eat the best. And so I laugh and I chuckle because it's a great topic. That's our diet changes, changing work ethic, trying to, get more sleep, being
Right.
able to be more present. I didn't have a lot of those opportunities. Like through school, like
Mm-hmm.
it has been not a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
It has been, but the drive was there.
Right.
The drive was there. The drive got me through. When I could, I rested long. When I had an opportunity, I'd beef up the activity. But sometimes my goals could throw off the routine
Right.
of the physical part. It's very critical, very important, and it may have made some of my process easier
Mm-hmm.
if I had a better routine matching my physical with my goals. I'd say if I were to rate myself, I would give myself about a 60%. I feel like I did a decent job with my physical while working on my goals, but there was definitely room for improvement, but it is a critical aspect.
Hey, that is just like it's a very humbling answer, and thank you for sharing. I really, really appreciate that. I know our listeners are able to take a lot of value from you being candid about that. And yeah, you definitely point out some valid, not flaws, but things you have to watch out for when it comes to
Yeah,
accomplishing your goal. Cons, there you go. When it comes to going towards your goals in the physical aspect, that stress, you definitely want to find a way to manage that, and it's difficult. There's a variety of coping mechanisms out there, thanks to social media or commercials, or whatever. We have those different avenues present to us all the time, so it's
right.
it's important to kind of sift through that and find a healthy way to get those stress levels down, because that's something that can creep up. Sleep routine, things like that can be affected, and depending on education, I'm right there with you in that.
Woo.
I understand that part in terms of it takes away from getting sleep just because of the
Yes.
sheer quantity of it. So you are going to be making certain sacrifices as you go towards certain goals, but at least by monitoring it, you have a chance to at least make sure that it's stable. It's within
Exactly.
a same or similar time of day if you can, because that's going to all contribute to like getting a greater rest, even though you're having a decrease in the amount of hours that you're sleeping. No.
Jumping back just right to that point,
Mm-hmm.
like if with your sleep patterns, with your activity, if you notice your grades are
Mm-hmm.
falling,
Yes.
you changing your physical can help get you back on track. Like I've
Yeah.
had times where it's just like, okay, my grades are going a little bit low. That means I must be on E. I might need to reset. So go for a run, get that bloodstream going in your
Yeah.
body. Maybe you take one night off and you stop. You don't allow yourself to study. You give your one night off just to rest, just to
Mm-hmm.
sleep, play a video game or something like that. That is part of your physical health. But when you notice a problem,
Yeah.
you address it. It's like, okay, I was a A student and now I'm a B student. I'm going down to a C student. What's going on?
Right.
Honestly, between A and B is when
Right.
you really just
Right.
don't be a C and then
Yeah.
start worrying about it, because you should have been worried about it at B. But
Right.
but yes, just being aware. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, let me change something. Either I'm not getting enough sleep, I need to get more activity,
Right.
just paying attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It all kind of goes in one big circle. So like
Mhm.
even when looking at the cons and managing the cons, we have pros too, you know,
Yeah.
on the other side, which just all goes back and forth to helping manage with the cons, right? So
Yeah.
when you set a goal, you're working towards achieving it because it's going to have some kind of beneficial outcome that's really relevant to you. So when you finally achieve that goal, the pros of the physical aspect of achieving a goal is that you're getting a dopamine shot in the brain. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's making you feel really good. It's a long lasting effect as opposed to like a short term reward, because when you set a goal, in essence, that's delayed gratification. And so
Yes.
when you achieve something like that, you get a strong shot of that dopamine. You're feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your life. And it's just like that candy, you're sort of reinforced to do it again. So that means
Exactly.
when you're faced with these physical challenges, like you were mentioning with like rest or diet, it's going to encourage you to, you know, continue to monitor those things and to persevere through them.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so impressed by you because you are so young yet so wise. So wise. Like I let me tell you, man, because at your age, I didn't have the focus. My mind was all over the place. And yes, I had a lot of personal stuff going on, but that's no excuse. We all have different things going on.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, I'm so impressed at how you're able to articulate your thoughts, talk about how you feel.
Oh, thank you so
Of
much. Like
course, of
seriously,
course.
I'm humbled and thank you again. What I owe the world is to give thanks to the people who've role modeled for me, like yourself, who've
Mm,
helped show me some real lessons in this life that I take and apply every day. So thank you as well.
thanks, guys.
Segueing into psychological health aspects, just freehand talking about how goals affect us on a psychological level related to our health, our self perception, like we touched on earlier in the beginning.
Mhm.
When you set a goal and you know you make sure you follow the SMART goal acronym and it's all set and locked tight and you follow through, you feel good about who you are. You feel good about what you can accomplish, and it's just such a rush.
It really is. It feels good. And then when you see your name on that, whatever it is,
Yes.
whether it's a promotion, whether it's a degree, whether it's something you purchased that you've worked really hard for and that's your reward. Maybe that's the thing that, you've saved up your money and your goal is to get something, to buy a car in 6 months. So you save your money up and maybe that's that reminder. But psychologically, you know that you have to do what you have to do to get there, and following those SMART goals, especially the M and the T, definitely have to be implemented.
We talked about the pros and cons in the physical aspect. So we talked a little bit about stress. When it comes to the cons, I guess you're gonna have to make sure you have some positive self-talk as you're being put into these challenging circumstances and that make you uncomfortable.
And you know what? That's difficult too, because that also means that you have to ensure that your surroundings can fertilize positive thought, because
Yes,
you're the only one producing the seed to the positive thought, and your surroundings are not grasping it. And you're the only one producing it. Eventually, there's nothing for it to hold on to. You know what I
you're
mean?
right.
You gotta have those positive things around you, and they don't have to be people.
Right.
Positive things can, maybe a space that's yours, you
Yeah,
know, and maybe that's what's positive. And so having that positivity around you, especially when you're studying, is
right.
so
Yeah, I mean,
important.
seriously, you know, I personally like sort of an active environment when I study, like with either music or a show in the background. Some people love silence, other people, they have, you know, different ways of doing it. And it's all about setting that environment so you can have that positive self talk, because that really helps your psychology It helps you with maintaining all those physical elements of being healthy as you move towards your goals. And it just helps overall with that self perception of when you achieve that goal that you're proud of. And then that reinforces it. It's just like a circle. Moving on to the spiritual aspect of how goals are
Mm.
relevant to affecting the health in that area. Can you mind elaborating a little bit about that?
When you think about spiritual, I think about what it is to have faith. And it's only been in recent years have I come to realize what it means to have faith.
Mm,
And so, and in my experiences, believing in the things that are unseen or, maybe not so tangible in the moment, and applying those to your goals is you have to have faith
mhm.
that you're going to get there. But also, faith without works is dead. So you got to put work in. It's like, okay, as I have faith that I'm going to, finish this degree. You got to have the works to do it too. Spiritual is that faith and maybe the things we don't have physically right now, but we know we're going to get. That's where
Mhm.
our spiritual comes in. But you got to have the physical aspect of it. You got to put the work in. You
Yep.
have to, put that in. It goes back to the psychology too. Like, where's your
Yeah.
mind? I feel spiritually, you have to have faith because life is going to knock you down, fight you. You'll wonder, like, why is this happening to me? This keeps happening. And it's
Mhm.
just, that's part of life. And no
Yep.
one could explain that to me until I really experienced it.
Yeah.
Until I
100%.
really experienced it. I've literally lived out of my car in the past.
Mhm.
Like, it was a short time in my life, but it was a humbling experience.
Yep.
But I continued to do what I had to do. It. I didn't ask for help. I didn't that help wasn't what I wanted, but I knew that I had to get through it. I
Yeah,
had to.
and you had the faith and then you followed through with the works.
Mhm.
And so thank you very much for sharing that. Proud of you and just it's an example definitely that our listeners I think could take a lot of value from and I'm definitely taking a ton of value from this example right now.
Some of us have had the opportunity to not take the difficult road.
Mhm.
And I feel each of our roads are difficult in some way, shape, or form. But
Mhm.
someone's had it worse than me.
Yeah,
Someone's had it so much worse than the things that I could have ever imagined. And they
true.
still push through.
Yeah.
So it's just one of many experiences. There's somebody on here that's like, well, I lived out of my car for 5 years,
Right, right, right.
and made it through. So there's
Yeah.
people, and so I've been blessed. I really have.
Gratitude helps the spiritual health as you go through these challenges, being grateful
Yes.
and knowing there are others who have had it rougher. When you are setting smart goals, the likelihood of achieving a goal is much, much greater. And what that does is it can put your spirit in a relaxed, fulfilled state. Once you've
Yes.
achieved, your goal, you're just gonna feel just, I don't know, some kind of deep relief. It's kind of hard to measure the whole spiritual aspect of things.
It's like setting smart goals is the smart thing to do. That was an intentional
I
pun. I did
love
that on
that. I love that.
purpose.
Oh man. Hey, you know what? Sometimes it's like it's that obvious. It's right in front of you. You hear it, listeners. Okay, we got the pun, everything. You're definitely gonna remember
Exactly.
this. You're gonna be able to take this throughout your day and just remember as you're trying to achieve things. Did I set a smart goal here?
Exactly.
Because I am smart.
Exactly what you must do. It's exactly.
Yeah, when you achieve your goal, it affects your spiritual health positively. And when you don't, it can actually make you feel bad. Just to lightly touch on the cons part. And so that's why, again, it's important to set smart goals so that your likelihood of achieving it, boom, are up.
Speaking of feeling bad when you don't reach your goals, oh, I gotta throw this out here. I went to Wayne State University just to be, just very transparent. I was there for 7 years and I didn't leave with a degree. I left with a 1.9 GPA. And there was a lot of different things I was experiencing, and I saw my grades going down, but I didn't know what to do to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was doing everything, but what I was doing was what was desired of me to a certain extent. So going down this path that wasn't mine left me not knowing how to fix it. After going back to school, with my bachelor's, I graduated with a 3.5, and with my master's, a
Mm-hmm.
3.8.
Ooh, I
And
love
so,
that.
in those moments, you doubt your ability. There was a
Yeah.
long time I didn't think I was smart. I didn't think I was capable.
Yeah.
Those were things I heard.
Right.
I took it on myself. And when you are in school, I was there, but I wasn't there.
Right.
1.9 GPA, I
Yeah.
wasn't there. I
Yeah.
really, I was just going.
Right. You were attending.
And that's it.
Yeah.
I was When I started going to school
Mm-hmm.
was when I got that 3.5 GPA. That's when I
Yes.
started was like, oh, I
Yes.
like this. I like this. This is fun. Like I want to get, I want to see. And when I tell you I fought teachers because if it was a B minus, I'm like, wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute.
Right.
Because you get
Yeah.
excited, you get rampant,
Yes.
but
Mm-hmm.
then it lets you know you're in this right space. So if you're feeling like your grades are going down, you are feeling like you're spinning your wheels and you don't know how to fix it, it's time for you to take a minute into
Mm-hmm.
solitude.
Yeah, I'll share an experience as well. And by the way, that's phenomenal to have worked through that. Yeah, seriously, it takes a lot of resolve and it takes a lot of pausing and thinking to kind of redirect. So I'm very proud of you for that.
Thank you.
It reminded me of a time in microbiology. I think academic examples are pretty helpful here. So just let's
Yes.
continue with that. I got a D on my first test for microbiology. And the reason why that was significant is because to get into nursing school, you had to have a 3.0 biology cumulative grade. So basically, out of all their biology courses, it had to be 3.0, or otherwise, it's time to change careers. Basically, it's just time to
Whoa.
hang up the hat, and you're not mathematically likely to get in here, so you might as well just pick up something else. Like that was kind of where it's at. And so, in order to maintain that, I worked out I needed to get a B to make that happen. And when I got that first exam, it was a shattering experience, just feeling so demotivated. But you know what? I decided to when I went to the next class to look at the who the smart kids were. I could tell who they were because they were always raising their hands up in the class. They were always had an answer. The teacher just loved them. And I was just like, oh my God. So what I did is I sat next to them, and then they would meet after class to study the material. And I remember the first time going, feeling like I don't know what they're talking about. I have no idea what they're talking about. And then they would ask me a question, and I would just like quickly try to look something up and just contribute and then go quiet. But then eventually I started to know what they're talking about. I started see kind of where they're thinking, where their focuses are. And then it became like a regular conversator. And then my grades started going up. And then at the very end, I got the grade on my final exam that pushed me to get to a B.
There you
So
go. There you go.
finally at the last exam got the B I needed. And then I was able to
Okay.
get in. So
Man, isn't it something to feel what it would be to almost to you either feel the failure or you feel close to the failure, and it's
mm-hmm,
a button, and it's just
mm-hmm.
I don't like this. I need to fix this.
Oh
Like,
yeah, it's like a new animal in you just comes out.
wait, and the fail isn't a bad thing, unless you allow it to be.
That's right.
And that's all in your choice. You can allow this to be the last and final thing that you could ever do, or you
Right.
can take a moment and say, you know what?
Yeah.
I can do this. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
And what you did was you didn't give up,
Right.
because people have gotten there and gotten to that point in the past and said,
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
You then went to your resources.
Yep.
You were like, okay,
Resources.
I gotta think about, you
Yep.
paid attention to your class to see who was catching the information.
Yep.
Jumped in, you pulled from those brains. It's you don't have to give up.
Yeah.
It's going up Kyle's mountain. You got
Yep.
ways you can go to get to the top.
Absolutely. And your only battle is with yourself. And
Yes.
don't stop until it's done and over. Meaning every single moment you got to try to get there. Like for the example of your schooling, you
Right.
didn't, if you struggled, you kept going on to the next assignment, going on to the next assignment until the semester was over. You kept
Mhm.
doing it. You didn't stop halfway just because things were dire or whatnot. And same thing here on my end too. You know, I even it was the first exam. I still had two more exams. So I kept going, you know, and that's
Mhm.
the kind of attitude that is conviction that's going to be needed to get to some of these biggest goals of ours accomplished. And
So
I'm
true.
hoping our listeners are really learning a lot from that, or at least reminded if they already know.
Yes, absolutely.
We've covered the three different topics. We talked about why goals are important. We talked about smart goals.
Hmm.
We talked about the physical relation to, in terms of health and accomplishing goals, psychological relation to health and goals, and the spiritual relation to health and goals. Was there anything that you wanted to add? I'm sure we've hit our time.
I know, right?
That was
No,
nice.
I think this is amazing, and I feel like it was purposeful. It was purposeful. It was meant for us to have this day, have
Yeah.
this time, have this moment. And whomever is listening to the end of this, it was intentional for you to hear this. This was intentional for you to take the time to make it to the end of this podcast, listening to this message, listening to my voice, listening to everything you're hearing right now. Life
Yes.
is purposeful.
Yes.
It is so purposeful. Don't stop. Keep going. Cousin, I thank you so much for opening this space for people. Like you've opened a space. You've made, and as a guest, this is my first podcast. And you made it such a very easy experience. Like I worked a full day today and it just feels like I'm just having a great conversation.
Uh,
You really set this up really well. I'm very impressed. Very impressed. Any guests that you have in the future, just know that Kevin is going to make you feel comfortable as a guest. He is going to provide you everything you need. He's going to ensure that the goals are clear. He communicates well. Just know that no matter where you are, if he asks you to be a guest, it's a great opportunity.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, he's right, you guys. No, no. No, much more
It's
humbly than that. That's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Conversation. And thanks for making it easy, because honestly, I felt like you made it easy. There were some points where I really needed your support and you were able to kind of pick it up. So thank you. Thank you, listeners, for the time that you put in. And yeah, we'll have another episode upcoming, topic to be announced. And Randolph Johnson Smith, congratulations on your recent master's degree, your recent position as Director of Patient Access, and
Thank you.
future Dr. Johnson Smith. Pleasure
Yes,
having you here as a
thank you.
guest.
Thank you so very much. I look forward to everything you're going to accomplish. I love this. This is
Thank you, listeners, and we'll be on for the next episode.